Michael Raymond, first of all, thank you all so much. The movie's fantastic. I do want to ask you, though, La Llorona, I feel like this is one you just don't play around with. Even when I talked about it on the radio in Houston, I grew up in the Valley, which is down in South Texas. We take her very seriously, and I grew up with her. My grandma used to threaten me with her all the time. And even a lot of our listeners, when I was telling them that this movie's coming out, they were very cautious about it. So in your research, were either of you ever maybe second-guessing, maybe we shouldn't do this, or
Oh, I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is, The Exorcist was about possession because they make movies about supernatural occurrences because they're real. And I go, they're doing a movie about La Llorona. And a lot of people don't understand that it's not a fairy tale. La Llorona is a dark entity that walks the earth. Yeah. And she's very real. Anyone who's Latin, who grows up in the Southwest or Mexico or just around Latin culture, they know that La Llorona is a very real demonic being that exists. And it's not just a story. So I'm like, whoa, they're doing a movie about this? And then when you call on dark entities, you got to be really careful because they may show up. So then, and you understand this. I mean, when we did the movie. Oh, good. Well, no, you should be scared. You should. This is what's great about the movie is that it's frightening because it's real, and it's a very real possibility that you could be the subject of her desire. You could end up being victimized by this dark entity that attaches itself to you, and then you're screwed. Right, so when we did the movie, I wore all kinds of protection. Oh no, I had a bracelet on that protected you against negative energy. I had crystals. I had tiger's eye, and this wasn't in the script. This was me as an actor saying, okay, I know about poltergeist. I know about The Exorcist. I'm coming into this film and we're dealing with the supernatural. I'm going to protect myself as much as I can. Mm-hmm. Now, when we were shooting, in the middle of the scene, I had my hand up to God, my hand on the Bible, and I'm battling La Llorona in prayer. The bracelet exploded off my wrist. I was not touching anything. And three of the beads were split perfectly in half. And we picked them up, and I was shocked because I took one outside and I tried to break it on a concrete porch. I could not break it.
Wow.
And I kept them. I have them in my possession.
At that point, what keeps you from quitting the movie?
He did quit. We had to.
Oh no! I go. You know what? Sounds like I gotta go.
Him back in there.
Well, no. You also have to understand that the only way that you can combat darkness is with light. This is where people usually find God. A lot of people don't want to believe in God or angels or the light until something dark happens to them. Then all of a sudden, they're deep believers. But because it's real, and you cannot explain it. You can't explain either side.
Wow. No, I grew up with the same legend, and I was like, so that's when I heard about the movie, and I felt like, okay, this is going to be from my childhood. This is going to really scare me, and it did. You guys did a great job.
Oh, good.
Did you feel that because I heard that you guys had a priest that actually blessed the set and stuff like that. Do you think that actually helped?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it definitely helped, at least psychologically. We had a priest and a curandero in the very beginning, bless the set, and then give us all Olympias. And then halfway through, we had the priest come back. The house was supposedly haunted, and we actually I went in there a total skeptic, and I left a believer. And I don't know if this was La Llorona or what it was, but we had so many strange occurrences in that place. Wow. And there was one
frightening occurrences.
Yeah, one time we were all at lunch, and you leave one person behind to do fire watch. And that's just to make sure that, nothing burns down or anything, or no one runs off with the equipment. And we weren't supposed to go upstairs. And it was just because that was rented out to these 3 girls going to college. But the house was supposedly empty. And he's there, and he hears footsteps running across the length of the hall, dun, 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 dun,
above
dun, dun.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and I hope that played on the mics. Well, but and he's not thinking it's anything supernatural. He doesn't know anything about that. He goes upstairs, and he's thinking the girls are there, or he thinks a member of the crew is gone, into their rooms or something. So he's checking room by room. First room empty, second room empty, third room empty, the bathroom's empty. There's only one way up there. And he's convinced something's up there. The location manager came in, and they were basically they were having a big argument, and that story spread through the set, and it got all of us on
Freaked
edge.
Everyone out.
And there was just, And it's like, that one there's really no explanation for, and there's all these others that happened during the shoot that it just was very strange. And I don't know if it's if we were doing a comedy and those same things would have happened, we would have been like, it's nothing, it's just our imagination. But I think when you're in that mindset that you do feel like, I grew up with it.
There was something there.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I grew up with it as a, just hearing it as a ghost story from friends, and, the more that, you dig, the more you talk to people, you realize it is the ghost story. It is the ultimate ghost story.
Yeah, it's crazy that nobody's made a movie sooner than this.
Seriously, one of the best things from we've done a bunch of test screenings, and one of the best things that we get from the focus groups, and this has happened multiple times, is they're like, okay, what do you think about the movie? And so many people have said, Finally, somebody has made a La Llorona movie, and whenever I hear that, it's so exciting and so validating. I just feel like
we've arrived.
Yeah, right.
She's arrived.
Right.
I was just about to say, you guys have taken the horror genre to the next level, because we've heard about urban myths. I mean, back in the day, there was the Urban Legends movie, but now you have La Llorona, and again, I grew up here in the San Fernando Valley. And hearing that used to scare the crap out of me. So, now you guys have put the realism on the screen, and hearing, the scary stories and everything. It has me excited to see what's going to come next. But for the both of you, for a horror film, I mean, how do you prepare yourself mentally to, put yourself in that mindset? Look, I've grown up with this fable. I know something might happen. How do you, go to bed at night, each night on set, just wondering what's going to happen next?
Because Chobs wears you out all day shooting, and you go home exhausted, and basically you just pass out. And you're like, gotta go back to work.
Yeah. We were all passing out. Before this is my first movie. Before this, I did, commercials and music videos. And for the most time, you're just shooting 1 or 2 days. So I went into this as with that sprint mentality. And, it was high energy, and I'm easily excitable. I have lots of energy going into it. But seriously, 2 weeks into it, I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I was so exhausted. And, you just, because a movie's a marathon, it's like.
Yeah, we were like, wow, this guy's really enthusiastic.
They're like, he is not going to make it.
He'll burn out.
Yes, exactly.
Out of the whole movie, what would be your favorite scene and why?
For me, the bathtub scene, and that was, I wish I could. There was a couple scenes that I'm very proud of that I actually I made, and they're totally my design. The bathtub scene was there from the very first draft. That was in the script, and right when I read it, I was like, this is going to be a fun, iconic bathtub scene. And I feel like there's been a handful of them throughout the years in horror movies. There's one in Nightmare on Elm Street. There's one in Diabolique. There's you go through them. Cabin Fever, exactly. And it's it's such an iconic set piece for a horror movie. And I was really excited about that going in. And it was the first week that one of the first things that we shot. And, usually save that for later into the schedule, as I've been told, when you kind of get some momentum, you get better at, doing it. Yeah. So we were just thrown into the firing pan with it. But I'm so proud of how that sequence came together. And, you could feel it in the room when people watch that scene.
I wanted to ask you guys, one of the good things about horror movies just in general, right? You watch the movie to be scared, and then when you're watching it with your friends, everybody gets scared. You sit there and you laugh at each other. You know what I mean? Watching this movie yesterday, the energy in the theater was incredible. Everybody was jumping out their seats, and then everybody's laughing at everybody. You know what I mean? As a director, when you're going in and you're trying to capture these shots, I think your angles, your way of building suspense created a lot of the energy and a lot of the tension that took place in the theater. So what is your approach, and how do you know what you're trying to grab, what you're trying to piece together to create those moments?
First of all, thank you so much. And, I think a lot of it, I think when I first started shooting the movie, it was much more from the visual standpoint. And as I really got into it and as I was building these sequences, it became more and more from a character standpoint, and also from their, just trying to anchor myself in their perspective and in that experience. And then also, I think by the end, and looking back and looking forward into the next film that I'm going to do, I almost feel like I would design those sequences almost from a sound first standpoint, thinking about what are the sounds that unsettle me, what are the sounds that will really you know, because that is a horror movie. I mean, you can almost like, you know, sometimes not watch it because, you know, and I've seen it in the test audiences where people will be like have their sweaters over their head and they're still like shaking and shivering because they're hearing it.
Yes, yeah. I literally, the lady I was sitting next to yesterday was freaking out the entire movie. She's like, "What just happened? What just happened?" I'm like, "Yo, open your eyes."
Yeah, she really was.
She was
ducking.
freaking
But
out.
I'm glad
And
you
then
meant.
I'm sorry, Raymond did such a good job because there were certain moments where he was a tension breaker with the comedy.
Totally.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that was good work.
How much of that was improvised? Because you played it really well with those
the
lines.
tone of it's improvised, but it's written in the script. But you have to make it work. All of a sudden, you got this, you know, amazing tension, and then you know it's broken. You give people a chance to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you know, a lot of these, people who have to deal with all like this darkness, they have a sense of humor about it. It's like gallows humor, you know. And they're dealing with death and destruction around them all the time. So to be able to like, you know, incorporate that into the character, it just works so great in the film.
Yeah, we were so lucky to have Ray because, I mean, he...
Oh, very
totally
funny.
Very funny. Apparently.
He is. He totally took like the curandero aspect really seriously. He did so much work on this. You know, it's like I met with all these curanderos in Los Angeles and they're the best. And I was like, this is the type of character. Like each one's different. Like every curandero you meet has a different personality. They're each like their own unique character. And I was like, I just want that same quality. Like when you like meet Raphael, that he's like he just feels like a fully formed character. And I just, you know, there are those moments that like, you know, when we premiered, there was, you know, there's a couple lines that Ray says that, you know, are followed up by like, you know, a couple jokes. And the laughter and the cheers were so loud on a couple of them that it drowned out his other lines. And I was like, you're missing some of that.
Rewind it.
Rewind it.
Right.
Which, you know, yeah, no, I mean, he was, Ray's awesome in the movie. I'm so proud to have him.
Absolutely.
So the short film that you did, was that like basically kind of almost an audition to get the film, or was it like just coincidence?
It looks like it, right?
Right.
It was literally, I just made it on my own. And, you know, I just liked the idea of, first of all, I love haunted house movies. And I love the idea of that kind of dark, humorous like take on it. You know, put it online. Within like a week, I got called into New Line, and they gave me the script for La Llorona. And I think I sat down. And I was like, guys, I've got to do this movie because there's so much of it that is in my short that it's like, because I was planning on
Perfect
making
match.
that into a movie, and I was like, you got like, and there was even things that aren't in the short that I wanted to build out that are in the movie. And even like when it comes down to the pendant that's in there, I was like, that was like a key part. And so I was like, guys, you either hacked my email and you figured this out, or like we have got it, because it did. And I think they even felt like it was just, it's like, you know, just like kismet or the universe or whatever you call it, you know?
Way, yeah, it happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I also have to applaud you, Michael, because representation, Latino representation in a horror film, you don't see that often. And I have to say, first of all, what even made you say, I'm going to do this way, get real Latino actors in it, and not make it stereotypical? And Raymond, I have to applaud you on your role because you've always been like the bad guy.
I'm a badass.
Yeah, you are a badass. So like seeing you in a different role for like a change, it was actually kind of nice. I was like, dang, I'm really starting to gravitate towards.
Got mad skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I think that it's like, you know, it's we love this legend and we really wanted to do it proud. And I think that there was, you know, huge weight, huge responsibility taking this on. And, you know, we did a lot of research going into it. And, you know, of course, the intention is to do the definitive La Llorona and like to tell the truest story of La Llorona. So you start researching, and the more that you like talk to people, the more you realize there's not one La Llorona story. There are a million La Llorona stories. Everyone has put their own spin on it throughout the years. And, you know, this one variation of it kept on coming up. I was talking to this one curandero, and then and my friend's grandma told me the same thing. I was like, okay, so she goes after little kids, and the curandero said, oh no, she doesn't go after kids. She goes after unfaithful husbands. I'm like, oh, okay. She lures them to the river. She's this beautiful woman.
This guy was a marriage counselor.
Yeah, exactly. But then right when she has them at the river, she turns into this horse monster. She's got a horse face, and then she comes at them. And I'm like, that is awesome. Yeah. But that is not going to go in the La Llorona movie. I'm sorry. But that was this. So ultimately, ours is it's a take on La Llorona, and I think that was one of the trickiest things. Is like not the definitive version. There will be no definitive version, but it is definitely. I feel like it is a classic version, and I'm really proud of it. So
Well, I also like how they use Linda's character. She's kind of representative of the audience who is completely ignorant to La Llorona and has no idea what this is about. And we're shocked, me and Patricia, in the movie. We're like, are you kidding? And then she really is representative of like the rest of America who has no idea what this tale is about.
This is my first time hearing about this.
She brings that perspective and having to like learn about it firsthand, which is the creepiest way to learn about something, when the thing's attaching itself to you and your family.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, girl, you're screwed.
You in danger, girl.
Oh, what?
You better run.
Michael, you've got a true gift in horror. You absolutely do, and
Oh, thank you.
I'm really glad you brought up the use of sound, because even in The Maiden, you made scrubbing a floor scary. And in Llorona, there was a scene the very first time that the mirror cracks, and that whole theater just jumped up out of their seat. But what's next for you, man? Like, where do you go from here?
I'm just started on The Conjuring 3. That'll be my next film. James, he's passing the mantle over. I'm a huge Conjuring fan. I'm a huge James Wan fan, and without a doubt, this is another. I thought La Llorona was a huge responsibility. This is another huge responsibility of a horror story, a horror franchise. I can't tell you much, but it is a great script. It is very different than the previous Conjuring films. It's not a haunted house movie anymore. It is something much bigger, more expansive. The Warrens, they face an adversary that they have never faced before.
Can I ask you guys, either one of you guys, for us as an audience, why do you think people are so engaged, so willing to be scared? You know what I mean? Like, why do we want to go see these scenes, get freaked out, and then go home and have to hide under the covers? You know what I mean?
I think it's a great group experience, a great communal experience. One of the things I love about, now it's like, there's so much great stuff streaming and on Netflix, and it's like, why do you need to go to the theater? And I love going to the theater, and I feel like what really justifies it is that group experience. It's like, I hate going to a movie where, you're almost supposed to be quiet, where you're like, shh, it's like, it shouldn't be that sacred. It should be fun and rowdy and like a thrill ride. And I feel like that's what horror movies deliver is, this great, like, especially when you go opening night, and please everyone go opening night to La Llorona. But like when you have a packed house and you have that energy and just that rippling sensation of those kind of like the chills, it's just unmatched. It's really like a thrill ride experience. I mean, that's why I think people like to go. And I think we have so many distractions now. It's like, it's one moment that you actually, it's like for an hour and a half where you like come together with a bunch of strangers and you share this experience. And I think
see
that's
it up
amazing.
on a big screen. And with that energy in the theater and that shared visceral experience is amazing.
Gore in horror films. I'm a big like blood fan. I mean, look at me, I'm wearing skulls. Blood and gore in horror films have always been like the major factor. So making a horror film that has not that much gore, you still manage to scare a scream queen like myself, because getting into the head, in the psyche, it's like we always think that someone or something is watching us. So for people out there that are like, I need to see blood and guts and all that, like, what do you have to say to those particular horror fans that may not, be as cool with the fact that it's a horror film without the gore?
Yeah, well, I would say it is rated R. Who knows? Maybe they should see if it's like, someone gets decapitated or something. Either, in terms of that, it's funny because I grew up loving horror movies, and especially like the goriest, the bloodiest of them. And I even thought I wanted to get into like effects makeup because I was just like, I just want to be working with like latex and fake blood and all that kind of like weird gooey stuff. But I think what I've gravitated recently, it's like, it's funny because you have that expectation and sometimes that fear going in. And I think it's even more tantalizing to not deliver on it, to like deliver on just the threat and to really make people like, just bring out true fear. I think that it's like, because really you shouldn't really want to see like, someone lose their head. It's like, you should be fearful of that, because we're human beings and, we don't want to see people die, and, But it is funny how and I think that eventually I'm sure this horror we're kind of in another golden age of horror. I'm sure that's going to keep on going, and I guarantee that we're going to have another slasher renaissance. I feel like that has to come on.
It has to come back. It has to come back.
Yeah, right.
Ray told the story earlier about your bracelet breaking. Yes. Did that get caught on camera? And are there other different instances?
We were shooting, and it was in the middle of a take, and Chobbs yelled out, "Cut!" He's like, "What the hell was that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, what the hell was that?"
Right, right. So my question is, instances like that, is there a chance that we might be able to see those later? Could they get released?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Extras.
Yeah, because we had to go back, and I had to get another bracelet, which I pulled off someone who had one. I put it on because we were in the middle of a take, so you have to match. But it was it's on film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we would love to.
That's
see,
a great Blu-ray
we would
extra.
love to see the unexpected things that happened that weren't supposed to happen, like maybe a reel of all of those instances.
Yeah, that is actually a great idea.
Yeah. Can I get credit?
Yeah, totally. Get a percentage of the Blu-rays.
Was it hard working with the young kids on a scary movie set? Like, were they traumatized at all? Were they scared of any scenes or Llorona?
They were great. I gotta give credit to Ray. Ray was first of all, our kids were great. Our entire cast was great. Ray was also just great as just a veteran actor and kind of helping mentor them on the sidelines. And this is my first film. I'm juggling a whole bunch of stuff and putting out a bunch of fires and stuff. And it's only in retrospect, and I'd see him on the side, kind of giving Roman a little pep talk or something, and just kind of focusing his energy. And I would and I heard some of the great wisdom that he shared, and I would leave that up to Ray if he wants to share it or not.
Kids were like, "Is she real?" And I'm like, "Yes."
I'm sure that soothed them, right?
No, they were stunned.
I think one of the best things with the kids is they're because people said oh, do you use tricks to get play mind games with them? And I'm like, no way. And the thing is, kids are already so scared. They're so small. They're so vulnerable, and you're never closer to that real fear at any other time in your life as much as you are as a child. And so you don't need to do much to kind of get them in that zone. They're already thinking that. You just say La Llorona's right outside, and they're there.